everybody. It's great to see everybody from different parts of the world. And I was going to say good afternoon, but I figure it's different time zones right here for everyone. So I'm actually curious, where are you guys from? So drop something into the chat so that we can get to know each other a little bit better. I'm from the Philippines, and right now in Manila, it's around 5:04 p.m. And so it's late in the afternoon for me, and I hope that what we have in store for you guys today is something that would be relevant for your own practices as well. It is dear to my heart because it is what I practice as a teacher and or rather a teaching artist. And I hope that everybody would also participate in our activity later. So let me just share my screen and get that going. This afternoon, or today anyway, we will be talking about how we can use our talent and our skills towards as teaching artists in inspiring our students or whoever we meet towards not only just art making or just meaningful personal art making, but art making that is geared more towards what they want to change in the world, what they hope to change. And I think more than ever now with the pandemic, it is something very important that we have to inspire agency in our students, and that it is something that is very important if we hope to shape a better world for everybody in our room, or rather in our own communities. So what to expect today? We will be, after an introduction, I'll tell you a little bit about my art, about how I got here, or rather how I came up with this sort of art and advocacy method in teaching. I'll show some examples from Filipino artists who are very much into using theater, arts, dance, comic books in talking about their own personal advocacies and how they manage to change others for in their own communities. And we will go through the method of how my 5-step method on how to do this, of course, and we'll get a sort of simulation for it so that you get to experience what it's like to be, well, a student, so that it is easier for you to understand how to also translate that in your own practices. And at the very end, we'll just have a really quick sharing if you would like to share what you have made today, and maybe a Q&A or an open forum if you have additional ideas or questions you want to share with others in this call. Okay, so for this workshop, or rather this think tank, I am aiming to be answering these three questions. One, how might we as artists and educators spark the change in perspective and mindset of our students? How do we empower them towards social action? Because that the translation from making something personal to making something towards with an intent to change the minds or shape the minds of others is quite a big leap for a very young mind. And that is one of the things that we hope to answer today. And secondly, how then do we teach and show these young individuals that they do have the power to positively influence the world around them? Because I'm sure with social media and with the way things are now, a lot of our kids now, I call them my kids even if I teach high schoolers, a lot of the kids now seem to feel like they just have to accept how the world is and not change it. And that could be a dangerous thing to be when you're a teenager, when you don't feel like you can actually influence the world around you. And lastly, we want to answer, how do teaching artists give them this can-do attitude and mindset towards achieving these changes that they want? And these questions all matter very much to me. And I've been working towards the answers of this in my practice. As an artist, I have always been, in particular, I've been quite obsessed with Filipino culture in general, in questioning why we as young Filipinos sort of like meander away from our ethnic roots. Why are we so excited about entertaining Western notion and thought without being really knowledgeable of our own personal identities culturally? And in that sense, being both an artist and a teacher, I've experienced what I would call rather unfortunate ways that kids see the world, and that there are many difficulties and different problems that even education faces. And I think, or rather I know for most of us being artists and teaching artists, a lot of schools don't regard our practice to be a main academic component. They see as a side subject, something for the kids to have fun with after class. They don't see it as a real academic driver, which I believe it is. And that is why for my personal work, for example, this is from Halao. And this is where I sort of chanced upon the idea of, if I involve my audience in my personal work, then they have a more meaningful takeaway from the art experience itself. So for this particular body of work, I drew a set of myths and legends or characters from Philippine folklore. And this really tackles why it's so sad that when I was young, I knew who this character was and I knew who that character was. But now when I talk to my kids, they don't know even the most basic Philippine myths. And that's sad for me. And that's what this work was about. So I created a bunch of drawings, sent them out to different artists, writers, different students. Some of them were lawyers, some of them were doctors. And I asked them to complete the drawing. And that is why the paintings on these walls are very different in style with each other, because I asked them in a conversation towards what do you know about our culture, and that made them research what the story was about behind these characters, and it made it a lot more exciting. So that's where actually the previous slide here were the kids who are holding the book from this exhibition, and we worked out a way so that NCCA, which is which is the National Commission for Arts here in the Philippines, found a way to publish these books for free and are giving it away for free to students, so that the knowledge about our culture isn't lost, and hopefully through the arts, because it's an interactive book, they get to color it in, they get to draw in it. It would spark more interest in our culture. So that's my introduction. I'm a paper artist, a painter, and an educator. I'm particularly, like I said, immersed in our own culture, and I love using paper because it is something that is, in a sense, ironic and paradoxical. It is both very fragile and yet could be very strong if applied correctly. There's an ethereality to it, and when you change something into this material, it forces the viewer to reassess what is this? What am I looking at? And this part of my work shapes how I teach as well. And last one for my work, just very quickly skim through it. This is called Gunitain. And I actually roped in my family to help me fold 14,000 origami boxes to build this gallery. And I asked the audience, what is meaningful for you as a Filipino? What do your memories of our culture help informing your identity of who you are? So I asked the audience to come in to the gallery, pick out whatever they wanted if it resonated with their memory, and I asked them to leave something behind. So again, the interactivity of the work, the way that you ask your audience to really and truly participate in your practice is easily translated into the educational setting, because when you involve the learners in the art making, it makes the lesson you hope to give to them much more meaningful and memorable. So today, I hope to share what I have sort of condensed and still working on for the last 20 years. And that is through art, we first lead our students to self-discovery, okay? And then from self-discovery, we hope to lead them towards what they're passionate about, what they love. And then from there, we hope to help them find what their purpose is in the world. Whether they choose to be an artist or a scientist or an accountant or whatever it is, as long as they know what their passions are about, then hopefully we can shape them into better citizens of this world. So when we talk about all of this, It's a lot. It's a big idea, and I'd like to show some examples of it, of local artists, of how art may be, or rather for me anyway, it's intrinsically linked with social responsibility. Now, I know there are artists who prefer a very formal approach. They want to look at form and technique and material, and that's fine. But there are also countless artists who focus on our social responsibility. So let me show you some examples. For example, May Paner, who is also locally known as Juana Change. She's a personality here who creates different theater, or rather she's a actress, and she creates different personas for herself to tackle social issues here in the Philippines. And this is one of her more powerful works, which is called Tao Po. Roughly translated, Tao Po is like, is anyone home? It's very hard to translate. When you want to check if somebody's home and you're knocking on your door, you knock and say Tao Po, meaning, is anyone home? And the thing is, this work is all about the extrajudicial killings in the Philippines that happened a few years ago during this current presidency. And of course, I'm sure this this issue itself really was not only big locally. A lot of news outlets all over the world talked about these extrajudicial killings. And for her work, she created this short film where it is an immersion about different interviews that she conducted with the victims of extrajudicial killings. And for this work, she created 3 different personas to talk about and expose what, or rather comment on this social problem that we had. So her first character was a Zumba instructor who lost her husband and her child through EJK, which is what it's locally called. And it's a lot shorter than saying extrajudicial killing. So so she came up with 3 characters: a Zumba instructor. Second would be a cop who lives a double life as both a law enforcer and also a lawless hitman. And third, as here in this picture, a young girl lighting candles in a cemetery, in a Manila cemetery, because she reminisces all of the people she has lost in the community as victims of this problem. And it's very, very powerful to watch this. And a lot of our students who we asked to watch this film truly responds to this work because it is so emotionally charged, and it's just her on stage, but it's very, very strong because you get a real sense and feel of what she was trying to talk about. Another artist would be Kevin Eric Raimundo, and this is very recent. It's called the Tomindig Movement, or To Arise. And it's about taking a stand about the Philippine government's response to the COVID-19 pandemic. 2020 and 2021 were very, very difficult for our country. We were really hard hit, and a lot of people criticized the way it was handled by our government. And coming from the extrajudicial killings issue, not a lot of people wanted to speak up because people were afraid that something might happen to you if you openly criticized this government. So Kevin came up with the Tomindig Movement. So he came up with this character. He posted it on his social media, and then he challenged artists using the "do this yourself" hashtag, "do this in your own style," which was a big thing with the kids. And more artists said, okay, they took the character, redrew it in their own style, and in that way, visually represented that they are standing with him in this point of view. And this picture does no justice to just how many artists joined into this movement. It went viral. Even people who were not artists were making their own Tumindig characters. And for a while, it really blew up on social media. And it, I think, for me anyway, it was a big turning point in terms of the views of Filipinos with, wait, we can actually do something. I could actually speak up and be creative and be counted for what I stand for. And this is all from just one very simple black and white character. And that's the power that art can do. And this is something that I love sharing to my students as well. I challenge them to join this movement, and they loved, of course. At first, it was about decorating and putting it about themselves. I'm a unicorn or I'm a spaceman. But after a while, the more and more we asked them to share about their ideas and and about their experiences about creating this character, the character started to change to something more meaningful and more truthful for them and their identities. And that seeing that change in your students is amazing. So so that's for Kevin Raimundo. You could actually check out his work. He runs a regular comic, and it's actually a satirical comic. It's called Tarantatong Kalbo, which is a really, the word itself in Tagalog is sort of a curse. So it really says that the kind of artist he is, that he isn't afraid to challenge norms and ideas. And of course, I would be sharing another work aside from politics and social problems. I'd love to share about climate change as well, because again, this is a very, very relevant issue for us nowadays. And the power of the arts in talking about this idea and getting this notion across to more viewers is very important. So this is a work by Raz, and I'm so lucky that Raz chose to show up today. And I made him. I asked for him, Raz, can I show your work? And I'll say a little bit more about it, and then you can say more about it, because of course Raz would be the best person to talk about his work. But this work in itself is very, very visually arresting. Unmasking climate injustices, voices from the past, present, and emerging generations. And show more pictures, yeah. So it's not just the final output that we are looking at here. It's a lot more than that. In the sort of backstage of what happened here. So Raz, could you tell us a bit more about your work? And I'm so excited that you're here.
No, thank you. Hello, everyone. Thank you for this opportunity to share. I'm Ras from Panay Island here in the Philippines, and I'm one of the commissioned artists for ITAC Impact Climate. And this particular piece is put together eventually organically. It has drawn people, different stakeholders to be part of this installation art piece. But again, it's the impact of what the process of the art making left within the sensitivity consciousness of every person that were part of this, including the women farm workers, the pottery makers, the students, the local government unit leaders, even the police. So it brought together our community and looked into an art form which is something new for them, but somehow they realized that aside from it, that visually they can see and connect with the community members who were in the images, and also voicing out their own opinions. It created in a way an awakening. It's just a startup, but somehow it's unfolding even until now. So I'm really glad that this has become a very transformative process for all of us, even for myself as an artist. And I'm glad that Cathy is also sharing it here. So thank you so much.
Thanks to Raz, and I'm really, really excited about this work because again, when we create work, when we involve again our audience in the art making, in the whole process of it, by even drawing their own opinions and ideas about it, the way Raz did with his work. He did a lot of community surveys and actually did short documentaries to go with this work. And it really shows that if you work with your roots, with the community, the work becomes much more impactful. And it's something that we hope that can inspire more and more changes to the people around us. I know that watching through and looking through all the pictures, not all of the guests were artists, but a lot of really just curious onlookers as well. And the fact that they're there and asking questions, okay, what is this? What is this about? And they'll look it up. And um, starting that conversation is what's important. We don't change them overnight, but the more that we get them more and more interested in speaking up, then that's where we should be headed as teaching artists, in my opinion. So to summarize this section, I'm sharing you here a really short quote from Seth Godin, and that is, art is the intentional act of using your humanity to create and change in another person. And passion is caring enough about your art that you will do almost anything to give it away, to make it a gift, or to change people. And I do not think I can keep honing, or rather focusing on it enough, that a lot of us artists, we create, but the way that we create can largely influence others. So there is a responsibility there as well. So how do we then inspire social responsibility in our students? How do we transfer our own passions to them? And how do we inspire them? Because of course, for a young mind, it would feel so overwhelming if my teacher asked me, can you make something that will change the world? Of course, they'd freak out and and be like, me change the world how? So of course, we do it step by step. We do it and sort of wean them and introduce them. And the reason for this is we want the shift to be intrinsic to the students. It's not handed down to them. It's something that they want to do because they understand its importance. And this is where we hope for a shift in mindset. And that is, we want to change the perspective of students towards social awareness. Locally, there's this, in the Philippines, there is actually a stigma for being an advocate for something, and that they tag you as a communist, which is, why is communism a bad thing? But like they tag you as something that is negative for wanting to speak up against the grain. And that is something we also need to change culturally if we want to really make the world better, for lack of a better sentence, right? So so we hope that in nurturing our students, we inspire them so that they will want to create actionable change through our students. And we hope to empower the youth. A lot of our students now, sadly, are going through depression, anxiety because of the pandemic. They've been stuck at home. For most of you guys, because you're outside of the Philippines, most of the schools here are still online. We've only began face-to-face classes this month in limited schools. So you can just imagine the impact on the students' minds here, that they've been stuck at home for the last 2 years with very, very stringent measures for them. They can't go out, they can't even go and meet their classmates, but they can go to the mall, which is weird. So see, there is a disparity in how policy is made with education and with their social reforms and stuff like that. So students or kids in this sort of mindset are not inclined to want to do anything. They sort of wallow. So we want to change that mindset that, hey, you can do something, to give them this, what I call agency, that they can be the shapers of what their future would be. It's not going to be handed down by us, the older generation. And I say us because I feel like I'm old. But so I won't include you guys on that. It's just me being old. So it shouldn't feel to them that their future is being handed to them. They should feel like they will want to shape what they want for the future. So this 5-step thing is what we do over the course of 2 years, because I'm a teacher, I'm a principal at a senior high school here in the Philippines at SOFA Design Institute. And we teach our kids with these 5 things through the 2 years that they are with us. So I must caution everybody here that, of course, we want to change them, but it won't happen overnight. It won't be 1 workshop or 2 workshops with them. We work with them through the integration of all our different subjects, not just the arts. We ask our science teachers to talk about this. We ask our math and English teachers to talk about it. And by having our students try and answer this, it becomes more and more relevant to them. So the first thing we ask is, who am I? So later we'll be doing this activity. So guys, better start thinking, who are you? Okay, who am I? What are you passionate about? We ask them, what do you love? What do you hate? What do you really, really don't like? Okay, because when you know what you don't like and not like and like, it's a really more better, clear indication of what you're willing to stand for. And that's the third question. And lastly, of course, for action, what can you do next? Knowing who you are, knowing what you stand for, what can you do next? And this is a cyclical thing because after you've done something, then you start reflecting. Was I effective? Did I do the right thing? Or was I really sure about who I am? And sometimes students change their minds at the very end. And that's fine because they get to know themselves better and better. And the way that we also, us, I would like to believe that no matter how old I get or how long I've been teaching and making art, my why, my what do I stand for, continues to evolve over the years that I do this. So I want to show you some of the works of our students. So I'd like to thank my school for allowing me to share their works. And I'm very excited to share this because the first one here is by Amanda, and she was tasked to create this sort of headpiece. And of course, we asked her, what are you, that same thing, who are you, what do you stand for? And so she chose an advocacy about the environment, about in particular sea creatures. And she felt that the oceans in the Philippines, particularly where she lives in Laguna, are not being well cared for. So she created this headpiece with an additional challenge that if, say, a celebrity would wear this to a formal event, what kind of advocacy would you be able to share in this formal event? So she created this out of recycled materials. She cut up existing boxes in this color. She added like parts of her x-ray into it just so that she's connected with the work. And this work actually got a lot of attention on social media because the celebrity we asked, Tessa Prieto Valdez, actually messaged her about it and was interested in what she made. And we were so excited about it. And then she asked, what is this hat about? What is this headpiece about? And there was her chance to talk about her advocacy. And on the flip side of this, the one on the bottom, this is by Mayumi Rubio. And for her advocacy is all about mental health and awareness, how her anxiety and her depression made her feel. So that is why she created this sort of tangle, a nest of wires and red yarn, which she snaked through, and how she didn't stop at just a headpiece. She added things that weighed down her shoulders because that's what she felt. She felt really like it was difficult. So it's a very powerful work. She actually asked, this is her sister. she sort of conned her sister to model for her. And she even made the head cap out of yarn so that because her sister wouldn't dye her hair red for her sibling. So just to get this whole meaning across about mental health and about depression. And this drawing is by Lenchel Fernandez. And it's about how sometimes she feels like she's just making and making things. And it's slowly whittling away. So that in itself also is a commentary on the creative process, on how we should also take care of ourselves as artists. And I'm really amazed because this is like a 17, 16-year-old girl telling me this, that you shouldn't let yourself waste away, which is powerful. And the kids really tend to surprise us. For example, in this work, the work on the left, this is by Mari Bonifacio, and she roped in her two classmates into this performance art of hers. So she's the one lying down, Mari's the one lying down, and she gets dragged across this long paper carpet that she made, and on her back she put like red paint so that when she's dragged along, an imprint was made. And this work is about her feelings about generational trauma, how her elders sort of just dragged her along whether she liked it or not because she was young. And again, it's sadly one of the cultural things here in the Philippines that I wonder if it's the same for other countries, that when somebody young says, oh, but I want to do this, and then the older generation will be like, no, I know better than you because I'm older than you. And that's what she was trying to talk about in this. We're being dragged along, really unwilling. And she says these are like casts of her grandmother, which is And of course, it's really, really interesting. And the amount of commitment she made, this was in this performance art. It's like a 3-minute long video. And again, very powerful. And the next one, the next two works I'll show are an infusion of the art subjects with our culture and society subjects, which is social studies. I'm not sure what it's called in other countries. And we challenged our kids to choose a UDHR, or a Universal Declaration of Human Rights, what they personally resonated with. And they created sort of an online poster campaign about their chosen UDHR. So for JJ, she chose Article 19, which is about freedom of speech and opinion. And I guess it is a recurring theme for this generation about being able to speak up. And it's actually very powerful. So same thing for our other student, Amanda. She created this about the right to enjoy and participate in the world of art. And this is very personal to her as well, because initially her parents were not interested in putting her or allowing her to pursue the arts as her career. And that is why it is particularly powerful that these students sort of, I guess it's also a form of catharsis for them to really understand and deal with the world. And she actually got like 73 reactions for this, much more than my usual social media posts. And again, the engagement of the people on her social media, again, inspiring change more and more. So let me stop my share for a minute, and I will, it plays, there we go. So this work is by Divina. There's no sound to it. She purposefully kept audio off on this. And for this work, she tackles about the expectations of her family. And again, it's a recurring theme for the students about generational trauma, about being handed down what your parents or grandparents want you to be. And this is her commentary about it, about just the world spinning and spinning around her, about it always being the same. So that's what this workout is about. And again, this was posted on social media, very powerful. And I capped this section off with a quick video. So let me exit that. Stop share, and I will reshare my. And this is a quick tutorial that our kids did for students, or rather the kids with Verlani Foundation. Locally, the Verlani Foundation works with street children, and they help them try and get out of this sort of the situation that they're in. So let me share. Okay, awesome. So it's a quick clip. It's around 5 minutes long, and the kids were all tasked to share a really quick craft, and they did a play with the paper puppets that they made. Let me know if the audio might be too loud since I'm sharing. That might be loud. Okay. I think we can move a little bit forward because she really took a lot of time showing each and every step of her work. We can move forward to where she starts the story. So it's in Tagalog. So I'll do a really quick on it,
Si Elena
and then I'll
ay
summarize it
nagmula
for
sa
everybody.
Bahay Ampunan, malapit sa paaralan. Siya ay may isang napakahirap na buhay. Siya ay inubuso at iniwan ang kanyang mga magulang. Palagi siyang binubuli sa bahay ampunan, kaya't lagi siyang nag-iisa. at hindi gaanong kaganda at kahusay ang kanyang paaralan. Kaya ayon ang nagbigay hirap sa kanyang pag-aaral. Tanghalian na nagkakasiyahan at nakikipag-usap si
It's
Carla.
adorable. So adorable. So the story is about a child who lives in an orphanage, and the transition from being in an orphanage, or what we call a bahay ampunan, and shifting to finding a family, of going through school, about finding what others, or rather what others would think about her own insecurities. And that's what's powerful about this work, because not only was this shared amongst the community here in our school, but it was shared with the street kids that Verlani Foundation was helping out, and they did the activity with them. And that's how it all comes full circle about making art. It's really, really simple, right? You just cut out pieces of paper, stick them on popsicle sticks. But the very fact of creation, no matter how simple it is very, it makes things very engaging. And again, it makes it memorable. So let me share my screen again. Here we go. Perfect. There we go. So let me cap off this section of what I'm sharing tonight. Would be by allowing our students to voice who they are and what they believe in through the arts. That's not only shape their characters, but also the way they will view and challenge the world. And that is one of the key things that I want to also share with everybody here, is that we must encourage students to challenge the world, not just accept it. We must ask them that you must be an active participant in the shaping of the world for you. So moving forward, I'm going to get you guys and pretend that you guys are my students. First question, remember, who am I? Yeah. So try to answer. And answering this question actually is very, very, shall we say, it's actually harder than it seems, right? When somebody asks you, who are you? You either feel like, I don't have an answer for this, or you feel immediately overwhelmed because you wear so many hats, right? Because you don't know which part of you do you wish to share. And how we tackle this question with students is that you can ask them, so who are you at home? So sometimes they would say, I'm a brother, I'm a sister, I'm the official dog walker. Okay, so what are the different hats do you wear in your life currently, like for you as a person? And so feel free to answer that. I'll give you guys like around 5 minutes, or you can also answer here. Okay. I love this. Okay, if you don't mind, could you tell us a bit about your answer, Cecil? Who are you? Who am I? And I love that you put some decorative stuff on there, so that plays a little bit about you.
I was just having a play around with the thing. I put like, I'm a mom, I'm a wife, I'm the bike lady. That's how people know me, because I got an unusual bike. The person who feels thing, the woman running slowly up the hill, and the person who cares.
I'll have to meet you one day, because I can't ride a bike to save my life.
It's actually a trike, so it's easy, it doesn't tip.
Oh, okay. That's the kind of bikes I like. More than 2 wheels. So thank you for your answer, Cecil. And that's it, right? You wear a lot of different hats, right? It's not just one thing. You're just not one person. Your mom, your wife, a bike lady, and an artist. I'll go through. And Patrick has this. And I love how colorful it is, Patrick. Would you like to share a bit about it?
Okay, yeah, I was just about to, well, I just about got art in. Friend, arts, that was going to be artist, mentor. I thought of it as if I was working more and I'm always more familiar with this is such fun. I feel like I'm about 4 years old. So it would be like a star radiating out different rays. And I think that's my life. I feel like I want to be not a star in the sense, just a star in terms of light, energy, radiating light and energy, and that's what I want to bring into the world. Color.
God, I love that analogy about being a ray of light for everybody.
Yeah.
And it really translates as well with your choice of colors. And that's why I love using this this app with my students, because it gets them engaged and interested. And okay, Raz will tell us about his drawing.
Oh, all right. That's I thought it's a growing tree seedling, and I feel like I'm it's like a cycle for me that I feel like it's still, even though I feel like I feel like I'm a mature tree, but I feel like I'm still a growing tree. So I like the idea that a tree can shade, it can bear fruits, and it's an ever growing natural energy. So I feel I have this close affinity with trees, because it reminds me that your meaning and purpose is, at least for myself, my meaning and purpose is to be that steadily and just go with the season, while at the same time giving and receiving as well. So that's how I feel I am in soul spirit,
Yeah.
energy.
Like somebody who also nurtures, I imagine, so right, like being a tree, because I think there's a
Yeah.
selfless quality about it as well. And then
Yeah.
thanks, Raz. And I love how
Yeah.
direct as well. I hope I pronounce your name well. La Mancha. Okay.
Hi, I
Hi.
am Rosaura from Peru.
Mm.
I'm so sorry. People is sleeping now here, but yeah, I'm Peruvian from South America. I'm feminist. I'm the eldest sister. I am a visual artist, and for me, the action, what mm, we can I create as an artist is very important, with the or towards the social situations, problems, climate change, because
Yes.
yeah, is very important. And I don't know what, we have a social community here in Peru, and we work with art and art for social transformation. I am so happy to be here. Thank you.
Thanks to Rasara. And I'm glad that you're tuning in, even if it's a little bit late there. Thank you so much. And I really relate to how you shared about being the oldest sister, being a visual artist, and about working with your community and your art. And I love the bunch of people we have here tonight. And thank you for sharing. I have like 3 more people who were brave enough to to draw in our pair deck. So this is Brad, and I'm really curious. Tell us about this drawing, Brad.
I just kind of went with my instinct, really. I chose black on purpose, not because I'm against color, but just thought the square was kind of like a compartmentalized, in control kind of shape, but then it's sort of been shaken by external factors. Yeah, that's sort of where it came from.
That's really powerful, actually, and it's just it's a collection of black lines, and yet still so. I love the metaphor there about being in a box and it being shaken up, and I have days like that as well. And yeah, that's why I love sharing with fellow creatives, because the answers we get from these interactions are really unique. You guys are really like surprising me as well. Thank you so much, Brad, for sharing. Don't worry, I have more questions for everyone else. I'm really curious from Ian.
Hi everyone. Lovely to see you all those again. So for me, I kind of wrote some words, and I basically put, I'm the music I play on my cello and the emotion that comes forth. I'm the joy that comes from a song I hear and dance. I'm also the experience I've had through my life. But for me, I think like one of your students, I think for a long time, I wasn't really allowed to kind of pursue what I wanted to do, which was music. So I had careers and other things, but I finally said, sod it, life's too short, I'm making this switch. So I changed careers and now I play my cello and it just makes me ridiculously happy and feels very grounded. So I think if everything is going wrong in the world, I just go to my music and I just play. I think I relieved myself of the notion a couple of years ago that it has to be good every single time. I can just enjoy the process and play for me. So I think once I do that, I feel very centered and I kind of have a better idea of who I am and how I am afterwards. So hence the terrible picture, which you can tell I'm not a visual artist. So there we go.
I wouldn't say it's a terrible picture. I could clearly say it's a cello, actually. Thank you, Ian, for sharing that. And the first words that you shared are actually quite poetic. And you see how people who are creative have many different ways of expressing themselves. And good for you, man, for choosing the path that will make you happy. And
yeah, the family wasn't happy for a long time, but I think they came around to the fact that I walk around with a smile on my face now and kind of go, all right, well, fair enough then. So
yeah, I'm glad that I think a lot of us can also relate with that. It's the same for me. My parents weren't particularly thrilled when I told them I wanted to be an artist. So they actually tried to switch my courses without me knowing. So that's a story for another time. But I'm glad that you've chosen your passion, right? And again, when we choose our passion, when we choose what we really believe in, and then that's when we truly can find real happiness, right? And our agency to change the world. So let me move forward. So the next question is, now, knowing who you are to a degree, I think, right? Because again, that changes every now and then for us. What then would be your passion? What are you passionate about? And this can be big or small things. Okay, we tell our students, don't be shy to say, I hate broccoli. That's fine, okay? Because it is real and true for you. So what do you hate? What do you love? And this can be about the world, about how you feel working with others, how you are with others, about yourself, okay? What you love and hate about yourself, or about society, or it can be about your hobbies, okay? So for the rest as well who are not on the pair deck, you can add your answers in the chat. And knowing the answers to these questions, right, would truly lead us towards what you're passionate about. Because again, no matter how simple, or rather, I should put quotes on that, simplicity, or what is simple is not necessarily simple for others. Or what could be complex for one person is not necessarily complex in the same context as others. So what are you passionate about and what do you believe in? And there we go. I love the answers, and it's really into it. While I have people come in, I'd like to challenge the rest of the participants here to perhaps drop some comments in the chat as well. So what are you passionate about? What do you wake up for in the morning? Right? Like when everything is really difficult and the world sort of feels like it has stopped turning, what makes you get up from bed? So what are you passionate about? Because what you hate actually will also get you out of bed because you hate it so much, you want to change it. So let's wait. I have some answers here. Okay. And I'll run through it really quickly so that we can hear from our audience tonight. Okay, on what they love. And these are anonymous right now. So okay, so people love music. I'm a guess it might be Ian here with his cello. Is that you? Is it?
yes, absolutely
There we
right.
go. Finally, the guess. And it's about connecting to people, having deep, yes. And I hate injustice, bullies, corruption, hate deceivers, yes. Psychopaths. Creativity as a manifestation of our visions. Education, which is a form of social control. I agree with that, yes. Education can be a form of social control, especially with how education can be rolled out. And that is why I'm very passionate about what I do, because I come from a very traditional schooling, and traditional schooling here in the Philippines is not necessarily for the best way to put it is it doesn't cater to everybody. It's only advantageous for a certain demographic of students, and we want to change that, right? That education should be a real formative and free thing instead of something used or rather to be rather politicized, right? Okay, and my theater company for projects develop, yes, something that they love. I love creative imagination, passionate about community, and transformation. Yes, wake up to reciprocal compassion. I love that term, reciprocal compassion. Okay, okay. We have one person, they're still thinking about it. I hate, I love. Okay, give it a thought. Okay, I love waking up to my dog's happy face, so excited. Oh gosh, that gives me warm feelings. Yes. Okay, passionate about books and reading. Okay, the deification of money. Oh gosh, yes. Okay, I love drawing, lasagna, social art projects, music, scenes, arts, and my family. Okay, I'm passionate about getting young people to think about big ideas. Awesome answers, guys. And you see, when you talk about something that you love and that you hate, this is the first time I'm meeting you guys, but there's an emotional response from each other in this room, right? And it helps you sort of like relate with each other better. Okay. All right. So now that we know that, what then do you stand for? Okay. Out of everything that you hate and love, choose one thing. Out of all of your answers here, what you hate, what you love, choose one thing. And therefore, what do you then stand for? What is your message for others? And this can be as high and unreachable as you want it to be, because we're still thinking about it and talking about it. It can be it might seem impossible, but you can write down whatever you want. And that's what we tell our students, because a lot of them start getting bogged down early. Like, oh, I want there to be plus sizes for sexy fashion. Sometimes some kids would say that, and then self-contradict themselves and say, oh, but that's never gonna happen because everybody wants small sizes. And we tell them, wait, you haven't even begun. How do you know? And we don't want to give them a feeling of defeating themselves even before you started. So in the same way that we are writing our own advocacies here, or what we all want to stand for, don't be afraid to make it as big and far-reaching as you would like it to be. So let's give you guys like maybe around a few more minutes on that, so y'all can answer. Okay. Even if I can't quite see all of the part, I'm gonna guess this is Patrick's because it's so colorful. Is this right? Okay. Create visions. What do I stand for? Yes. Okay. Hope. I love this. Hope. Yes. Okay. Individual environmental responsibility. And this relates very much with climate change as well, because the changes that we do as individuals all add up, right? And this actually sort of even is connected with Raz's work, the one that we showed earlier, about each individual person's contribution towards climate change. Compassion activism. We're gonna get a nice drawing in a bit from one person. Let's wait a bit. Okay. And enabling discovery. You guys are killing me. These are awesome. And thank you for also being very honest with what you want to stand for. And us as artists, we really have the ability to give this to our students, right? To enable discovery, to give them hope, to help them create visions. And again, I keep saying this all the time in my talks and when I talk to my students, that when you're genuinely interested, when you're genuinely passionate about something, something is not difficult. It's something that we can really strive for. So I love that I did the added flair to this lovely hope. And I'm gonna scream, awesome. And I'm gonna guess this is a stage. So we got peace. Love this. And oh, we have an extra time to care. Yes. Okay. Awesome. So for our fourth question, for this, right? This is where I'm gonna challenge you then. How do you then translate all of your answers to these questions to something that you in your own practice as a teaching artist use? Okay, so you may be a visual artist, you may be a dancer, an actress, an actor, a cellist, a musician, or a fashion designer, okay, or an advocate. How will you use the arts to get your message across? And you may answer here, okay, but let me just fast forward to the next slide real quick, okay, because this is your challenge then while you're trying to answer that fourth question. So using your answers as a guide, create something for a social media post. Okay, the 15 minutes is a little bit arbitrary because I feel like I have very engaged people in this room. So, and of course, I'd want you guys to sort of work with each other as well. So, your post could be a drawing, a picture collage, a TikTok video, okay, anything that you're comfortable with. So please be creative. And again, it comes back to the question here. How will I use the arts to get my message across? Okay, so while you guys are working this for the next 15-20 minutes, I'll gather you all into different breakout rooms, guys. Feel free to meet up and talk with our other participants so that you can sort of bounce ideas with each other. And of course, I'd love to ask others later once I get everybody back into the main room what you made, for those who are willing to share what they've made, of course. And if you do choose to post it on social media, just add these hashtags so that ITAC and myself can share your work. Yeah, so there, I think, awesome. Okay, there we go. So hop on into the different rooms, okay? And I'll visit you guys. So get to work. So welcome back. So I wanted to hear, or rather see also, if you guys have created something. And if you wanted to also share with others your thoughts about this. And I think this is a really good sort of segue into the open forum as well, since everybody, if you want to share something about your thoughts so far with the activity, or if you drew something or recorded something, please feel free to share. Anyone would like to start? Oh gosh, I feel like,
I mean, I can talk about what we discussed.
awesome. Thank you, Ian, for that. Okay.
That's all right.
I thought I was going to do the teacher thing and start calling out names at random.
That's okay. I'm that kid who speaks up just before that happens. Hazel, Ndugu, Raz, and I, we were in a group, and we were kind of chatting about what we all do, what our messages would be. Hazel uses words as a playwright about environmental change and climate change to get her community to be more responsible about that. Ndugu's a musician. He's from Kenya but based in London, and he was talking about how he's very inspired how the communities reclaim landfills into open land instead of building on top of them. People kind of make it a space for people to come together. You can use recycled parts to build musical instruments and do that. And Raz, obviously, no further introduction, but obviously his piece with the clay mask done by the students as a piece of climate change and the way to speak out is fantastic. And I kind of mentioned I've just finished my first year of my PhD, but I basically look at how music can affect social well-being. So I use music to make people happy, in short, and how last year during lockdown in COVID and all the rest of it, I basically arranged film soundtracks to kind of play as music to people according to what their mood was, or what people kind of needed. In many ways, we did that. So we kind of put that together and thought, okay, well, everyone's interested about the climate change and social responsibility here. So what could we, given the interest of time, I think we're 2 minutes. we thought, okay, well, let's keep it simple. Let's just have the white background and some words or thereabouts. So Nugu, we all agreed, and Nugu had the idea, but we came up with just the idea of just saying rise and shine. Now, instead of just a wake up kind of thing, we kind of thought, well, it's more than just, it's about rising up as a person to doing the right thing in society, shining, it's like being a role, being a leader in that, and also embodying an ideal, which is quite nice. We talked about perhaps what image could go with it. And I talked about how a plant could be just putting its petal or a leaf in front of its heart. And Hazel talked about how the uncurling of a leaf with a tear or something like that would be, it would give people pause for thought when they see that, rather than just the words, they move on quickly. So there's an idea format. We haven't executed it, but that's where we are with R1. So yeah.
Actually sounds so exciting. And I hope to see that in the future with a leaf or a petal on your heart. And that's actually really powerful. And just thinking about hearing rise and shine really drives home that we really need to get other people to rise to the occasion and shine when they do. So that's amazing group. I don't know what group you guys are, group 1. But thank you to your group for sharing. That sounds so awesome. Anyone else would like to share about what they've talked about, or if you have plans about what you would like to make, if anyone made anything? Oh, we got a comment from Caitlin. Oh, we're gonna read this quote for sure for everybody. Unless Caitlin, I think we lost. Oh, there you are. Caitlin, could you share this for us, please?
Yes, I'm just wishing that I'd been a little bit better about getting up this morning and joined your think tank. I loved listening to Ian. It made me think of a quote that I read this week in the Strad. Don't ask yourself what the world needs, ask yourself what makes you come alive, and go do that, because what the world needs is people who have come alive. But you just made me think of that.
And it's exactly in line with what we've been talking about today. It really does. And I'm so saving this quotation because it really aligns with what we've been talking about as artists, about coming alive and just being be present and be part of the solution we all want, right? So yeah, thanks Caitlin for sharing that. And I have somebody raising their hand. Patrick.
I'm really honored to be here as an elder, because I represent that generation who have made a lot of the problems and challenges in the world that the young are facing. And I think for those of us who are elders and who've had the opportunity to have creative, passionate lives, I feel an enormous amount of, and it's not a heavy duty, I feel an enormous amount of responsibility. I think it's my ikigai. If you know the Japanese word, that wonderful Japanese word, it's the thing that gets me out of bed in the morning. You were talking about it earlier, Cathy, which is what gets me out of bed in the morning is the belief that I still have something to contribute and to pass on. I wouldn't necessarily call it wisdom, but I have some skills and, you know, that's it. That's what it boils down to. And what I believe is, I passionately believe in currently two big things, which is creativity and community. My theatre company, which is called Theatre Nation, our little tagline is creativity, community, opportunity. I see that as a kind of a virtuous process that we create within communities, and we create opportunities for us to share and to continue to network and create communities. This is a miracle here. For somebody my age, this is so Star Trek. To be in this community, which is global, completely global. There are people from literally 4 corners of the planet. And even our technology, the message it's giving us is that we are now global. We cannot solve any single problem. No nation state, no society can solve what their problems in isolation. They might try, you know, I live in the UK like some of the other people here, you know, and we've just made this awful decision that we can go it alone and be, you know, which goes totally against the tide of history. The tide of history is telling us that as a species, as humanity, we need to be here for each other before we literally destroy the planet for everyone. And that's going to be a big task. But the artist's job, I think, is to be visionaries, because it's like, I'm with Einstein, Albert, insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result. And it will be the young, I think, with their wonderful energy, passion, imagination, if we can open that up in our different ways that we work with, then we will find ways through politically, societally, economically, environmentally. But we need visions, and it's the creative artists who are the visionaries. And by creative artists, I don't just mean, I mean science as well. I mean the whole shebang. We're all, capable of magnificence as human beings. But our educational systems tend to shut us down and suppress us and want us to become worker ants or drones or whatever. So I'm sorry I talk so long. I'm a mouthy old elder. What can I tell you? But I love being here. It's a privilege. Thank you for creating this. This is a community that we're creating here.
Yeah, and thanks for that, Patrick. Actually, I loved listening to all of that, and really, it totally resonates. And a part of me is really geeking out, like my dorky academic, artist, creative, advocate side is really geeking out by hearing people like you guys sharing about what your thoughts are, your experiences, what you plan to do with your own communities. And this is exciting ground to be on. And again, thank you so much for coming tonight. Or, well, for me, it's tonight. It's almost 7 p.m. for me, or for in this morning for everybody else around. And so definitely, I agree with Patrick and Ian's sharing. And maybe we have time for just one more before we wrap up. And then if you're interested to stay in touch, of course, we'll just, sort of add each other on social media. Anyone would like to give last ideas or thoughts before I just sort of conclude everything? Okay, I won't do the teacher thing now and point to someone at random. Okay, so I think we are good. Thank you so much, guys. So just to summarize everything we discussed tonight or today, and that is, art is a very powerful vehicle for communication and change. It absolutely is. And you guys know that. You guys are at the forefront of change by being yourselves, by being creatives. And as teaching artists, we must work towards equipping our students with the ability and the passion to really drive themselves to be that change that they want to happen in the world. So my personal advice, I always say this: know your students, whether you work in a school, in a community, or in social service. You must know them genuinely and authentically. You must be truly invested in them if you want to create that change you want to see in them. So with that, thank you very much for joining me this evening. And I'll close off with this quote from Roald Dahl. And I love his books. I love his illustrations. And that is, somewhere inside all of us is the power to change the world. So thank you so much, guys. I want to share this as well. I want to say thank you to ITAC for hosting this think tank for me. I absolutely got thrilled that they wanted to, that they were okay with me sharing my ideas tonight. And thank you to Raz, to Kevin, to May Paner, who are all artists who agreed for me to share their work tonight. And of course, my students at SOPA Design Institute. And if you're curious about what I do, I have my own advocacy here in the Philippines. It's called Art Guru. Guru meaning teacher, or rather the art teacher here in the Philippines. So yeah, hit me up on Facebook. And I think everybody else here also want to sort of connect with each other. And before I end, to talk about more things that ITAC has planned for us, I think Caitlin, I'm gonna stop my share. We'll be sharing a bit more about the projects that ITAC has about climate change.
Yeah, I'm just going to jump in quickly. Cathy, just on behalf of ITAC, I just wanted to thank you so much for putting together this beautiful presentation, so engaging and inspiring. yeah, it's people like you that make ITAC what it is. So thank you again. Before we wrap up, just two quick comments. One is ITAC and Cathy have created certificates of participation for today's event. So if it's something that you would like to acquire, you can send your full name to Madeline, who you met at the beginning of this session. If you send her an email, she's the one that sent you the Zoom link. So you can just respond directly to that with your full name, and she can issue you a certificate of participation for today. And then I'm also delighted that Caitlin has been able to join us. It's very, very, very early in Trinidad, and she's just here to give us a little bit of information about the Climate Collective, which is, I guess, a subgroup within ITAC that we're running. So Caitlin, over to you.
Thanks so much for having me. Cathy, this just sounded like a really interesting think tank, and next time I will get myself out of bed. That's actually part of the reason I wanted to come today, just to share with you a little bit about the Climate Collective, the larger group, a group of teaching artists kind of working at the intersection of participatory arts and action on climate. And I see some people in the room that are already a part of the Climate Collective, but for the most part, our meetings have been running at unsociable hours for people in the Philippines and Asia and Oceania. So I just wanted to tell you a little bit about the Climate Collective, and then I got a Google form if you're interested in joining that you could fill out. We're a global group of participatory teaching artists working in communities and schools to foster transformative and measurable climate action through sustainable creative engagement. Our purpose is to advance shared value efforts between artists, environmentalists, scientists, lawyers, and policymakers in addressing the climate crisis. You go to projects. Obviously, you can read about Ashlyn's big project where she's working with all of our commissioned artists. Raz is here. I just think that's the most amazing project that Raz has run. But if you go down here to ITAC Climate Collective, you'll find this page. And we've taken time this year to define ourselves, written a purpose, vision, and mission, a manifesto. If this is work that you're currently doing and you'd like to be featured in the membership directory, you can. Here's how you join. We have back issues of a newsletter that we've created together that's really beautiful. So I'll just stop sharing that there. But really today, I just wanted to offer this Google form. Let's see if I can, there we go. I'm gonna share that link in the chat. If you think you might be interested in joining the collective, then just go ahead and fill out this form and I can send you more information. One of the big things I've included in the form is times. So I know that our meeting times have not been so great for people on the other side of the planet. But if this is something that you would like to join, if those meeting times were at a sociable hour, then I'd like to create a separate group that might meet at different times. And anybody that had any questions for me, I'd be happy to try and answer them. I'm trying to sound awake this morning. Thanks for giving me 5 minutes.
Caitlin, maybe you could just mention we do have an event coming up next week.
Oh, sorry. Yes. So next Wednesday, we're going to be introducing a few of our newly commissioned artists. Ashlyn's been working with me on helping to define who those guests are. That's going to be at 9 a.m. Eastern time, which I believe is 9 p.m. in the Philippines. So not too bad an hour. But we'll have also time in that meeting to hear from our letter writing campaign. So we're going to be working in breakout rooms to focus our energies on really making a difference. But it's going to be a chance to meet some of those newly commissioned artists and hear about their projects. And I'm really excited about them.
Great, thanks so much, Caitlin. If there are no other questions, I'll just hover here on Zoom for a few minutes, just in case there are any follow-ups. But just again, a big thank you to Cathy. Patrick, I see you've asked about whether there's a recording. Yes, the recording of this session will be uploaded onto the ITAC website. It usually takes a week or two for it to be edited and uploaded, but you'll find all of the previous think tanks also stored on the ITAC website. So thank you. Thanks again, everyone. Have a lovely day, evening, weekend. We look forward to seeing you soon.
Thank you so much, everybody. Have a great day.
It was such a pleasure. Thank you, everybody. Brilliant.
Thank you.
Lovely to meet you all.
Ciao, ciao, bye.